All right, so Chris Long's joining us. This episode is brought to you by the Original Fudge Kitchen, Jersey Shore Fudge, shipping across the country. What's going on, man? Appreciate you coming on.
Nothing, man. Jersey Shore fudge sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I live in Cape May now,
Oh,
and
life is hard.
yeah, man, life's hard. I got to Charlotte, you know.
Golly, dude.
So, what's up, man? Listen to your podcast today. I think I want to get into a serious topic right away. Is it a shark attack
Mm.
or a shark? Was it encounter? What are they
Yeah,
saying?
if we're playing little kid games, we'll call them encounters. But I mean, like, listen, I love sharks. I said it on the pod. I think I said something to the effect of if you had a placemat with sharks all over it and you had their names omitted from the placemat, I would name 95% of the sharks. I love sharks. I I literally watch Shark Week most of my adult life, which is incredible considering it's the same show every week. But I will not stand for this bullshit, where we're gonna sugarcoat the fact that if I get a chunk of my ass bitten out by a great white at Big Sur, I gotta call it an encounter, or people are gonna yell at me in my hospital bed. I just no, dude, I'm not.
What is your
You don't
favorite
have
shark?
to do everything the internet tells you to do, and that's kind of where I'm putting my foot
Yeah.
down here.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way of the world now, right? The internet's saying we got to have an interaction with a shark. I get it. I mean, I get where they're saying they're trying to make it a more of a, I mean, I completely agree with you. Let me make that wholeheartedly
I
true.
just I don't think people are. I could be wrong. I do think that there's probably an innumerate amount of people that are harming sharks because of the stigma. They need to be less stupid. Okay, like the point stands, we're in their environment. They don't mean to hurt us. Sometimes they hurt us, but they still hurt us sometime. And I don't care how many shark fins I see piled up overseas to go to some market. I hate that. I hate it, but it doesn't excuse sugarcoating the fact that Jaws bit you in the ass and attacked you. It's an attack.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Have you shark fished before? Is there a species, a certain type of shark that you like more than others?
I have not shark fished before. A black tip reef shark is one of my favorites. I mean, it's a little chalky, but I've seen them.
Spinner shark.
Yeah, it's a cool shark.
Yeah.
I love a Greenland shark. I think and that's obviously, I believe, technically a shark. Whale shark is not technically a shark. Um,
That's a whale.
Therefore it's a mammal. But Greenland sharks are cool because they're stealth and they live a super long time. They're like dinosaurs to me. I love those. Makos are cool. They're really ugly, but they're super fast. I like thresher sharks. I think lemon sharks are cool because they allow people a little intro into the shark kingdom without getting attacked.
And they're
Um,
aggressive enough too. Like
yeah,
I've caught them
yeah,
before. I've caught black tips. They jump out of the water and they spin. So we call them spinner sharks. And I've caught,
yeah.
the lemon sharks, it's aggressive, but it's not a bull shark.
It's a real shark, and a bull shark. Bull shark is scary to me because
They
of
don't
their
care.
ability to navigate brackish waters. Like you've heard about bull sharks being caught inland in New Jersey. I think there was a tiger shark caught 20 miles inland in South Carolina that blew me away. And lastly, the great white shark. That's the granddaddy of them all. That's the shark that I respect the most, that I love the most. I'm also the most afraid of it. And I do believe that megalodons are still out there.
You just can't find them yet. Well, you mentioned the green shark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to transition to the podcast, man. The green light, it's fantastic. It's fun. It's loose. It's exactly what I want when I want to escape from whatever the hell I'm doing in life. And I just want to chill out. It will definitely be my camp listen this year when we're probably eating by ourselves or whatever the hell we're doing while we're eating our meals.
Right. I'm glad to know that's how it's being consumed. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I just want to check out. I love it. How'd you get it started? You just got picked up too.
Yeah. Yeah. We ended up with Bluewire.
Awesome.
Which is a
Congrats,
big
man.
deal for us. Thank you. And thanks for listening. It's a little weird for me. It's been a really cool journey, but it's also been like I've had to kind of battle myself on it. Like I don't know if you ever feel like just doing this is an act of self-importance, just even having a podcast. And I don't like coming across that way, but what I love is entertaining people and meeting people. And I can't stop thinking. I love doing, making stuff up to do. I love the challenge of, hey, we got nothing to talk about. I'm going to be miserable for a day trying to think of like the segments we need to do and trying to book a guest, but it's the hustle. It's the grind that replaces football, and I don't wake up sore. So that's good.
Really good.
It's fun, man. And I get to talk to a lot of awesome people, and it's made me better, because I've had to work on myself. I've had to be like, hey, you suck at this. Like, I don't mean at podcasting in general, but like when you do something that sucks, you like when you work for yourself and you're your own boss, you have to identify those things and lean on the people in your circle to be like, hey, how can I improve this podcast? Because it's a really direct reflection of you.
It's the same as a player too, right? Like,
yeah.
You like, when you show up to training camp, you're like, well, these are like the anxieties, and I'm sure you've had them. Like, did I do enough? Yeah, you did enough. Like, just go do it,
And that's the heart, and that is a great balance to try to strike, because, and you hit it on the head, is like when I was a football player, you were always battling the did I do enough, and I was usually doing too much. I think like if I've had to battle anything in my life, it's like overworking and doing too much. And then like I was doing that as a podcaster for a while, and like you'd over prepare, you find your voice, like you're trying to be marketable, you're trying to get people to listen to you, and like you try to talk in like sometimes a broadcasting voice or something, and you're like, it's just hard to figure out like what's your voice, what are you comfortable talking about, what are your listeners like, but balancing that with like, I don't give a fuck, I'm in this because I want to do something that I like, and it's take it or leave it, which is the overwhelming kind of attitude for me. But now that we have fans who I feel really indebted to in a listenership, now I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't give a fuck, take it or leave it, but also I care what my listeners think.
Well, they come to see you, right? Like they're coming to you for a reason, whatever it may be, but they're coming to see you. And again, this is like in my novice media career, I've done a few different things in media while playing, but like they just, that's why I did with this. Like I've had so many different people on this podcast. Like it's for you and I to talk, right? You had an unbelievable career. You're a football guy. I can make this connect. But I've had chefs on. I had Doug Ellen from Entourage on. Like I just wanted to, that's what I like. Like
which
I like
is awesome. Which
I like
is
a little bit of
fun
everything.
Part. Yeah, that's the fun part. And I've struggled at times like sticking to like somebody will be like, well, what are we talking about this morning? Well, Aaron Rodgers is still talking about, I'm like, I don't give a fuck at this juncture in the summer, dude. We already did that. I refuse.
Well, people rather hear about your vacation and, like people rather hear about like what you're doing in Montana.
And that's the hard part, is accepting that people, and it's not out of a sense of like insecurity, but it's just out of a sense of like, you have to talk about yourself a lot when you podcast.
Yeah.
You have to say I a lot. You have to tell stories to relate, things back to yourself. I'm also very cognizant of not being that guy, which is hard when you're doing 2-hour pods a week. And there are going to be times where you're going to have to draw from your own experience. So I think that's the thing I struggle with the most, is like fucking the self-importance of it. You know what I mean? Like, which is hard, because I don't want to be a podcaster when I walk away and go hang out with my family or my friends. And like, you can easily fall into a habit. Like, you've been doing this all week, then you walk off set and you're like, oh, I'm still doing a podcast, which is like it can happen.
And it's the same argument back to playing again. It's like, I've literally, like, after the season, last year was my first real season in the league. I was practice squads, and I played. I was only an active week one. I played 15 games.
Yeah.
And I was like playing, had a legit role, and it was incredible for me. It's my 5th year pro. So, but like when the season came to an end, like what I was like, whew, man.
Dude, and about year 5 was, I remember, where I was the most afraid of it. Like, so like, you did half a decade at it, and like, you're staring it down like, well, what's next? And I think that's the scariest part. And I was already thinking about that my 5th, 6th year in the league, because my 5th, 6th year in the league, about where you were, was like,
you were done with the Rams, right?
Yeah, I was with the Rams, and the movie Concussion came out and all this stuff. So
I won't watch it.
There's just I won't watch it. There was just a lot of heavy talk about like the existential crises that players face, and also like the head trauma, and then like, what are you doing? And I was never more immersed in my craft than I was at that point in my life. Like, I was literally, I would have, I don't even say these words, but I would have died to make plays, and I would have died to succeed. This is before kids. This is before you like get a little older and you get a little wiser. It was a really hard time, because you're like, I can't imagine when they pull this rug out from under me. And I know that you probably felt the same way.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pulled out a couple times on me, bunch of injuries over the years. I mean, we've all had them. I wasn't the player coming out of, college you were. I mean, what's that like being a top pick, man? The pressure, you're going to St. Louis. I mean, what is that like?
It's cool, man. And, before I get ready to ever complain about the downsides of it, I also know that everybody's got their own problems and they're relative. And like,
Yeah.
because when I was a top pick, it was really important to me to not to prove, just this is who I am, I guess. But you know how it is, like teammates that can hang out with everybody and relate to like the guy who got picked in the 7th round, and the guy that one of my best friends in the world was, they call him Mr. Relevant, David Vobora. So I was the 2nd pick, he was the last pick in the draft, and we're still tight to this day. We texted yesterday, like, he's climbed Kilimanjaro with me. Like, I just think that kind of kinship between a draft class is really cool. So, but we all had different experiences. Like, I also knew damn well that his rope was shorter than mine. So there are perks to being a high pick. Obviously, you get paid. Of course, there are perks. You get paid. You probably have a little bit more latitude to not play so well, which I needed my first year. But at the same time, first year and a half. But
I needed 4.
Yeah. Well, but here's the deal. It's like, they also know that, like, hey, this is the guy we're invested in. We're going to ride this thing out. So you're going to get the reps you need to improve. Yep. The other side of it is the mental battle of like, hey, you have to be like for me, my career, 2 Super Bowls, 70 sacks, like some of the great years I had in St. Louis, I still am held to a higher standard than some of my peers. And that's like just the way it is because of who my dad was and where I got drafted. And the irony of getting drafted high is I didn't get drafted high because I was like supremely talented. I got drafted high because I took that shit serious in college and treated it like a job. And I had a great senior year. And then you get to the league and you're like, well, I'm talented, but I'm not as talented as some of these other guys. I'm just going to do the best I can. So being a high pick, pros and cons, just like anything else. But it makes you tougher. Just like probably in a lot of ways, being undrafted or a low draft pick makes you tougher in a different way. It makes you like really, these special teams guys are unbelievable. They're the backbone of these teams, man.
Warriors, man. I want to get into that. We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
We're going to get into some of the best guys you played with. I want to talk about Slater in New England, but I want to talk about.
I love him.
Yeah. Kilimanjaro first. Talk about the Water Boys. I talked to Kyle. This is funny. So I played with Kyle in Chicago and loved him. Yeah. And, I was there for about a calendar year, backside of John Fox's era, and then front side of the Nagy era. And they got cut the day we traded for Khalil Mack, actually. And then, drove all the way back, to Cape May, man, straight through 13 hours. I was hot.
Oh boy.
But, I wasn't getting cut because of Khalil. I was getting cut just period. But yeah, so I'm like, Kyle, how do I get involved with Water Boys? He's like, cut a check. I was like, all right, well, I'm a practice squad guy. I can't really cut a check right now.
He's the best, but he's not the guy that you want communicating with the aliens when they land. Like, some things could get lost in translation.
Talk about Water Boys and climbing and what you're doing and what you're raising awareness for.
Yeah, absolutely. We started Water Boys, 5-6 years ago. I went to East Africa to climb Kilimanjaro with a teammate, James Hall, who happened to not speak to me for a year when I got in the league because he was the defensive end who was actually better than me. And they were trying to get me to take his spot, back to the old, high draft pick thing. But me and Jay Hall became like best friends. And the year he retired, he was like, let's travel. I was like, let's do it. I was like, let's, Jeff Fisher was just signed as the head coach in St. Louis. The first time I met him, he had a picture on his desk of him, Teddy Bruschi, and some Wounded Warriors doing Killy. And so after we got done talking about scheme and all this shit, I'm like, hey, tell me about that picture. He's like, oh, Kilimanjaro, it's the best thing ever. Like, blah, blah, blah. You should definitely do it someday. It's amazing. You're into hiking. You're from Virginia. I said, yeah, I'm thinking about doing it this offseason, coach. And I'll never forget the look on his face. Like, he was like, I can't tell you no, but I've never wanted to tell somebody no, like so badly. And I was like, man, I got to live my life. We went over there. We climbed this mountain, 19,341 feet. It was a real challenge. It kicked our asses, but we got down and we were having a beer at the bar celebrating, which takes like 2 after you get down from Kilimanjaro and you're good. But somebody walks in and says, "Yo, Chris," and I'm like, "Dude, I'm in East Africa." Nobody, it's Joe Buck, dude. Joe Buck, yeah. And we all know Joe Buck. He does baseball games, and I knew him from St. Louis because he worked with my dad, and he was a St. Louis guy, and I was there for 8 years. So
Yeah, he's a huge St. Louis guy.
yeah, and that's the reason people hate him, I think, baseball fans, because the St. Louis Cardinals are like the New England Patriots. So like there's this resounding like hatred, and he's like associative with that. But I Joe, explain to me why he's there. He's there with a guy that looks just like Brad Pitt. It happens to be his brother. His name's Doug Pitt, and he's the Goodwill ambassador in Tanzania. And they're going on a water project the next day. We couldn't make because of the flight, but me and Doug kept in contact. And Doug and I, we're just playing around with the idea of like, hey, there's a niche in the NFL that we could occupy. We could occupy it in pro sports. I've seen tons of people do a well somewhere and leave it, and they might do it as a gift for a wife or a late father or something, dedication, which is awesome. And I'm not taking away from that, but we can do a comprehensive effort here. And that's what we did. And we named it Water Boys. And I got people from around the league to lean in, and we do large solar powered wells. And we've done 500,000 people worth of provision of clean water. Our goal is 1 million. And, if people want to check it out, it's waterboys.org. One year we get you over to the mountain. All you got to be is NFL alumni and pack some boots and get ready to be tired.
Yeah.
Just don't complain when we get down. Jason Kelsey complained when we got down and told me that was the hardest thing he's ever done, and I didn't warn him. And we got into like a little mini thing as best buddies fight sometime.
I could have been at the beach.
Yeah. We were in a
run a check. I'll run a check.
Yeah, you're gonna write a check. We were in a tent at like 14,000 feet. And we just got done with the death march. That is the summit night. It's like you take off at 1 a.m. You hike with headlamps from 15 to 20. And then the sun comes up as you're just getting over the volcano rim. You're doing like a death march the last mile. It takes forever to get to that summit. You get down. Haloti had to get wheeled down. We had to push Haloti up the hill like he was a Ford Ranger so he could retire on top of the thing.
He is a Ford Ranger the size of
He's a Ford Ranger. But when we got down, Jason like kind of snapped on me. And Bo Allen, if he's ever on a podcast with me, should tell this story. But like, we were both weak, but if we got to fighting, I think we'd have had the energy to do it. I just said, dude, what did you think? Did you look at the brochure? Did you see the snow on top of the mountain in Africa? That means it's really cold up there, which means it's really high up. I have no idea what you thought this thing was. It is hard. It is rewarding. And we do it every year.
Yeah. We just had a buddy of mine did it, Matt Caskey, offensive lineman.
What did he do? A lot of people crush it. He
just climbed it and he was holding up the Water Boys deal. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to have Chris on How Fitting. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So I'm in to do it.
We'd love to have you.
I would love to do it. I mean, it's better than what your brother told me. He's like, oh, just write a check. I'm like, all right, thanks, bro. He's a bear, by the way.
He is a legitimate grizzly bear.
Yeah, like I want to hit on a few things here as we wrap things up. I've never seen a player not practice and be that good. Ever. Period. I have to practice my ass off. I'm that guy. It sounds like you're that guy. It sounds like when you came in the league, I'm just going to do everything right. I have to. Like, I have to get my reps.
Yeah.
I'm a blocking tight end type situation, so I got to get my reps in.
I'm the guy at 33 and I hated practice late in my career because there's a point of diminishing return that like,
yes, it's not worth it for you.
Yeah. Well, like, the two elevators, one is going down your whole career. That's your physical, and one's going up your whole career. That's your mental, and your primes when they pass each other in the middle. And by the end of it, I was definitely the type that was like, hey, I got to take matters in my own hands, managing my body, because the places I was late in my career, they weren't giving you days off. And especially if that pissed me off, even as an accomplished vet, I was just like, I just got to do it. But Kyle, I'm in his family, so I know, bro, like he picks up just about anything with no effort and can just beat anybody at it. I mean, he's Thor, dude. Like, so I think what's interesting about him right now is he's had to deal with this injury and this run of bad luck. I mean, he goes back, comes out of retirement to play in Kansas City. He's got an injury and he'll be back this year and everything. But I think this is, and he would tell you this, the first time in his career that as an older guy, as a guy in a new building, which I told him is not always fun, like he's going to have to really apply himself like he's a rookie, like for the first time in a
It's a whole
long
new
time.
thing. He was the man in Chicago.
Yeah, and so that's part of the deal is like when you change teams in the NFL, they don't care about the last place you were or what you did. And that's the way it probably should be. And, I think he's done a good job with dealing with that. And he was on a really good run there until he got hurt, but he'll be back.
Yeah, he's a man. I love him. It was fun getting to know him, and he's always been good to me. And
he's a good kid.
I was going to have him on, and he got hurt like right then. I was like, dude, don't worry about it, man. We get your head right and come back. So
you got to get him on when he's healthy.
Yeah, no doubt. So, all right, let's talk about New England a little bit.
Yeah.
Sure you get asked it all the time. Thoughts on Brady, Belichick, Coach Belichick? I should say I'm still in the league. I should call him Coach Belichick. Hopefully, I can play for him one day.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, Belichick, Coach Belichick, and then some guys there that were like the guys like Slater and Gronk and those personalities.
Very special locker room, man. Like, people like to have this whole discussion about is New England fun? Is it this, that, and the third? Like, I think that whole conversation is overblown. Like, I'm not saying that the things that people say are not always true, but what I'm saying is that like you could have this conversation about so many places and what sucks about a place or what's great about a place or some idiosyncrasy that a coach has or a program has, like that just changes place to place. It just so happens they're under a microscope. And I love Bill, man. Like I didn't see, I don't even want to say see eye to eye. Like, schematically it wasn't for me, but I didn't sign up to be a 4-3 DN and do what I did my whole career. I signed up to try to win a ring. So when you opt in, the nice thing is that Bill's not going to lie to you. Like he told me, I don't know what we're going to do with you, but I know you're a good football player and I want you to help us win a championship. And I think you can really help us. That was it. And that's all I needed to hear. So, hey, if I end up in a 3 a lot, if I end up having to drop more than I want to, like it might make me look like I've lost a step. It might make if I got to rush on the right, like all that stuff. Yes. Is it hard when you're trying to explain to idiots that don't understand football that you're doing something different and you're not going to be a double-digit guy anymore? But it was so rewarding and I learned so much about the game. He's the guy that can go around to any position group and coach it better than the position coach, and this, like there's so few coaches like that. I've only had one. So Bill's amazing. Tom's an awesome guy, treats everybody in the facility with respect. And he really does have that killer instinct in him without being an asshole to everybody that he comes across, which is a hard thing to have that duality. It's almost like a serial killer thing.
And it's very hard to find for offensive players. I feel like when you see defensive guys, it's like, yeah, we know he's an ass, but like, hey, man, he's just a dog. It's who he is all the time. But offensive players, it's a different mindset. You've got, everybody like just a different, I don't know. I try to explain to people, but like Tom, just like smiling and he's just picking you apart. And that's just an offensive player mindset, I feel like, but he's a dog all the time too.
No, you're right. He pulls it off and you're right. Like on defense, especially a D-line room, like the D-line room we had in Philly or in St. Louis and Philly, but more so St. Louis was just an absolute daycare center. And like, like just dudes climbing on the walls and like, just
who's there with you, Quinn?
Robert Quinn, William Hayes, Aaron Donald, myself, Kendall Langford. Yeah. Like Eugene Sims, like we were 2-3 deep, Nick Fairley, and we were fucking crazy. And all we did was hang out with each other off the field. And that's D linemen. Like D linemen are nuts. And, linebackers are crazy too, but they have to coordinate. DBs are dogs at their best. If they tackle, they come up in the flat and actually feel like putting their nose in there. But offensive players, like offensive linemen, are cerebral.
Yep.
Like tight ends are smart guys that are tough too. And they like to have fun. Like tight ends are cool, right? Like running backs.
Try to be.
Yeah, they got to be, right?
Yeah.
Happy-go-lucky. Quarterbacks have to be leaders. Wide receivers are kind of assholes sometimes, in my opinion.
Some.
But Tom pulls that off really well. Like, how do you infuse that killer instinct into your offense? It really helps when you have a quarterback that has that killer instinct. And like, yeah, you don't have to have it, but that really helps when the guy on top is setting that asshole bar and they can still be geniuses up there, but they really had an edge to them.
And a good dude, like you said, like the asshole bar, which I love, is set, but I'm going to be a great guy. We're going to do things the right way. And then we're going to let it rip on the field. I mean, that's why he's the greatest. There's very few that can do that.
And Tom could get ripped too. Tom was fair game to get ripped. Bill would sit there and rip Tom in the big, Jules, Tom, whoever. So, which was genius. I think he had like a discussion with those guys who were like the leaders on the team, and he said like, I'm going to yell at you. That didn't make it fake when he yelled at him, but I think they knew that, hey, like, I got to come for you, because then I don't have to come for, Gino Grissom or whoever the third end is,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Two questions for me, and then we'll wrap things up. First, most importantly, best blocking tight end you faced.
Man, dude, that's so funny. For me, it was always guys that had like
long arms.
Well, long arms for sure. Like somebody like a Brandon Pettigrew, who a lot of people might not think was that challenging of a blocker, but like his length was like something that like bothered me a little bit. But then I kind of came in the league when there was this big transition from like the true blockers to the guys that like it was a bonus if you could block. And like, so every week in the NFC West, Vernon Davis, when he was young, he was blocking his ass off. I mean,
so strong.
So strong. And so, you have Vernon Davis at tight end. You'd have Ayupati. You'd have, Joe Staley. You'd have Goodwin, I think, Alex Boone, and then the right tackle, who we have an age-old rivalry. I'm not going to name him by name. But like, that was just an entire outfit. They had a fullback and everything. They had multiple fullbacks. Like, and that was just the way the league was. And so tight ends had to block. Delaney Walker could block.
That team was loaded.
They were loaded.
You look back, you don't even realize it. Like Delaney Walker's an all-pro. He's like the fourth tight end. What?
Anquan Bolden,
dog,
who could block as good as like most tight ends now. Like, he was a wide receiver, and so he would come down and like reduce and block an end. Like, the league was different. And there was a guy in San Diego at the time. Do you remember that big ass tight end that they had? He was like, I'm gonna look him up.
All I know is Gates from that team. I'm trying to think of your era, like Mercedes Lewis.
Mercedes Lewis, again, long, really good hands. So like, I think the biggest thing about tight ends that makes it challenging is if guys are really accurate with their hands and they don't let go. Because one thing that guys aren't that good at is shucking blockers. And so like, you could be 245 blocking a 275-pound end. If you have hands and you're sticky, he's going to disregard you and like try to make the play in the C. And then what happens? You wash for the bounce out. And like, because most guys relax. And I think about, the guy Spaeth in Pittsburgh, who I would never tell him this while he played. Like, I hated playing him because he held so well.
You just pull guys into you, like literally that's like my number. I just pull.
Yes.
Hard.
And literally, if you have the vice grips, and you pull and you don't relax and you're willing to go to the wall to finish blocks, like you can block DNs. And I know it's like sacrilege because in a D line room, you're supposed to say, you never let a tight end block you.
Depends who he is.
Depends who the tight end is. Not all are created equal anymore. Back in the day. Yeah, Kittle would be a guy that I think he understands it great. You watched that Minnesota playoff game 2 years ago, I believe it was.
It's that wide zone stuff, man. It's I don't know why every team doesn't run it.
Yeah, I don't know why either. And then if you play a team that's in an over and like Mike Zimmer really wants to stick those guys in a 6 technique, like that's one of the hardest techniques in football, being head up with a tight end, because okay, my gap is C to D, but that gap is moving 100 miles an hour side to side. And so we're really afraid of the cutback. We're really afraid of just getting walled.
There's fullbacks everywhere, trap blocks everywhere. Play action is ridiculous. It's I got to ask about Philly, or all of the Philly people will be upset that I didn't.
I get it, bro.
Okay. So Dad played at Nova. You have Philly ties.
Yeah.
I'm here at Archbishop Wood. We get the Makoy family. A lot of different Philly ties. He played for the Eagles, won a friggin' Super Bowl, which is incredible. I was with the Bears, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just talk about it, man. The whole thing, coming to Philly, and then the city, and the parade, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, and you got out right before Double Doink. You got out of Chicago right before Double Doink.
You know what's funny?
What?
We were thin at tight end, and I was home, and I'm like, come on, bang this thing, man, because they were thin. I shouldn't say
They were going to call you.
So I had a potential to go back and work out. My agent said, I was in Florida. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm training. I'm staying ready. He's like, okay, you could go back to Chicago this week. They touch base. They're thin. You could come in and be on the practice squad for the rest of the playoff run. I'm like, come on, Bears, baby. Like, I was so jacked. I went from like, all right, Eagles, take them down. They cut me to like.
The funniest thing. Yeah. Well, that's a hell of a journey there. I mean, like, golly, I went from like, it's over to like, oh my God. But like, I remember Sewell, you remember Sewell, Bradley, was he there?
Yeah, big Brad played tight end. He's moved to tight end. Yeah, big dude. Colts.
So Brad's the man, but like Brad's fun, and like my brother just talked him up all the time. But like we were lining up for extra point, or not extra point. It was essentially, I felt like an extra point, and y'all were gonna win the game. The Bears were, and he goes to me, he goes, "Don't sweat it, C Long. You're gonna be on a beach on Monday." Like, and I was like, Next thing you know, the double doink happened.
Which got blocked too. No one talks about that.
Yeah. Hester, the first time I learned that it was blocked was in the locker room, like sitting next to Hester, and people are freaking out and we're partying in there. And he's like, "Big bro, I blocked it." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever, dude. Like, yeah, it's a funny joke. We're trying to get some credit." But everybody went back, and by that part, I think Parkey already had all the death threats and that sort of thing, so it was too late. But the funniest thing was, that guy Barstool Carl.
Yeah. Wait. So
he went viral after the game.
The guy for the Bears.
Well, no, Barstool Carl is like a huge Bears fan that works for Barstool.
Okay.
So, like, I didn't know who he was, and he was like the famous Bears fan outside the stadium with the hat on, cussing out Corey Parkey. And I was like, geez, these people are really unreasonable. Come to find out he's a blogger. And I actually know him now. And but like Chicago, that game was incredible. The next game, I hate saying should have, but if we played better, there was no reason we couldn't compete with that team. And in fact, all game we were beating up on the Saints. They had a fake field
goal. New Orleans right at home. It was in Philly.
Yep. Yeah, well, they went for it on fourth down, the whole thing. So, like, that was the end of my career. That was the last game, and I really think we had a chance to repeat. But the year that we won the Super Bowl was special, man. Nobody thought we were going to be shit. I'm not saying we were picked to be 32nd, but nobody really thought we had it, and we had this really good influx of veterans. And so our team. I'm not saying the guys that were there before the vets came in didn't get it, but like just everybody kind of pulled in the same direction. And it allowed, like, I know leaders like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and Malcolm Jenkins and those guys, like, to have reinforcements on a leadership level, like, Torrey Smith, LeGarrette Blount, myself, Corey Graham, like Brent Selleck, who doesn't get enough credit. And I just talked to Selleck the other day. We just were so deep at every position and at positions where you needed leadership. And Joe Douglas did a really good job of this. Howie gets a lot of credit, but Joe did a really good job because he was the reason some of those veterans came in. Like, I came because of Joe. Like, Torrey came because of Joe. LeGarrette, to me, like, it wasn't a package deal, me and him, but we definitely did some recruiting. And Howie, did a great job that year as well. But Joe he just knew, and they knew, that you needed a veteran in every room. And he knew Torrey from Baltimore. He knew me through Ian Cunningham. Joe's a Richmond guy, and Ian Cunningham's a guy I play with and now scouts it in Philly. He's going to be the next great GM. But it just was like, we had that kind of locker room where you knew, like, we could get punched in the face and no problem, and that was what we needed, because we got punched in the face a few times. So
yeah, multiple quarterbacks. I mean, right, like legit depth all over. It was, as a Philly, not a Philly fan growing up, more of a Flyers, Sixers, Phillies fan.
Who's your football team?
You know what? A guy by the name of Tim Lewis grew up with my mom, and Tim was defensive coordinator for the Steelers, like the Joey Porter era, the Giants. So we followed Tim, and we went to games. My first parade was a Giants parade. I wanted to be Jeremy Shockey. I wanted to play tight end, and everyone's like, "You're an offensive lineman," And I was like fighting it, literally in these halls that I'm at right now in Archbishop Wood. Like, and they're like, "You can come play tight end here." So I came here, Never wore 80 ever, man. And I got undrafted to the Giants. Didn't pick my number, nothing, no idea. Walked into my locker and 80 was hanging in my number for
Oh
shock.
my God, dude. You had to be psyched.
Oh my God, dude. I was like, this is incredible, you know? And now like guys like Chase Blackburn, you know, he's my special teams coach. Chase was a great player in the league for a long time. So
he was, man. He was
tough dude. So
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you know, you're talking about, I never played Shockey. I would have loved to have played Shockey.
He's a nut job from what I hear.
Yeah, total nut job.
Well, bro, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, no, but Philly fans, man, like anybody who's listening in Philly, I always say this, like, best football fans in the world. I know, like, you kind of say that at every stop, and that's like what people do. Like, we got the best fans and all that shit. And like, I was lucky because I had some great fans in St. Louis.
Yep.
Boston was another kind of vibe too. Like, they're rabid there,
like Philly.
But just I just felt so at home, man. I just loved every minute of it. So thank y'all.
Yeah, man. Well, Chris Long, appreciate you coming on, man. Appreciate your time. We'll stay in touch. Good luck with the pod, and I'm looking forward to circling back soon.
We'll see you on the mountain.
Damn right.